It was my last race of my 2022 cross country season, and since it was my last race of the season, I decided I was going to go all out and beat my PR at that time. And during the first half mile of the race, I was just trying to get into a good flow of running. I tried to think of random shit. I was singing songs in my head, trying to hype myself up. I was trying to focus on my breathing, and I was just daydreaming, trying to make myself forget that I was running. Eventually, by the first mile, I started to get into the zone and I started to get into a good flow of running. And everything was going good. I was going at a good pace. I was ahead of a lot of my friends. And apart from the first half mile, I had almost zero off-topic thoughts in my head for majority of the race. However, when I got to the last half mile of the race, I began to notice how close I was to the finish line. And then I started to have thoughts about finishing the race, and I started to daydream again, and other random thoughts just began to flood my mind. And I started to think about how the cross country season was almost done, and how I was ahead of a lot of my friends, what foods I wanted to eat once I finished the race, or what video games that I wanted to play once I got home. And with all of these unnecessary thoughts, it just started to break my flow of running. I started to get really tired. My form started to get sloppy, and I was starting to get a really bad side stitch. I also went as far as walking for the first time during that race, and before I knew it, everything started going downhill. My friends who I was ahead of started to pass me, my side stitch kept getting worse and worse, and thoughts of wanting to quit just started to flood my mind even more. And so here I was, just casually walking, tired and out of breath. Or was I? Like, was I even tired? Like, I started to question to myself why I stopped running, and I started to ask myself if I was even tired. I mean, like, my legs weren't tired, my arms weren't tired, and since I started walking, my side stitch slowly went away. So why did I stop running? And in that moment, I didn't know the answer. I just thought my body wasn't trained enough. However, after watching Andrew Huberman's video about how to build endurance in the brain and body almost a whole year later, which is today, I realized that it wasn't my body that was tired. It was my brain. So it wasn't that my body didn't have the endurance and enough energy to complete the race. It was that my brain didn't have the endurance and enough energy to complete the race. All of those random thoughts, all of the songs that I was singing, all of the brain power that I used daydreaming, it all expended energy that could have been used for running. And then going back to the race, I just ended up saying fuck it and just bolted to the finish line, and then ended up beating my PR by 3 minutes. But that's not important. What is important is that now I finally understand why I stopped running even though my body wasn't tired. I finally know the effects of having thoughts while exercising and why I started to get a side stitch. And that's what I'm going to share with you in this video. Andrew Huberman's advice for building endurance in your brain and body, how to breathe properly and prevent side stitches, and how thinking while exercising can actually make you tired faster. The first and probably the most important thing you have to understand about endurance training is that it's not just physical training, it's mostly mental training. This is because thinking and other mental tasks require you to use energy, and every thought you have uses up a small portion of your energy. This means that by having random off-topic thoughts and being distracted when doing any endurance-based activity, whether it's physical or mental, you're expending unnecessary energy that could have been used for the task that you're doing. So when I was daydreaming and having random thoughts about what I wanted to eat for dinner during my race, I was making my brain tired and wanting to quit because I was using energy thinking about unrelated thoughts. This is an important factor to consider because quitting is 100% neural. The reason we quit is rarely because our body quits. Our mind quits. And that's a quote by Dr. Andrew Huberman himself. Understanding that everything in our body requires energy to do will help us better train our body and brain to work for longer periods of time. However, before you actually start training to improve your endurance, you have to understand that there are 4 types of endurance training. And all you need to know is that they are muscular, which is endurance for your muscles, long duration, which is doing an exercise for a long period of time, anaerobic high intensity interval training, so exercise without oxygen, and aerobic high intensity interval training, which is exercise with oxygen. And to be honest, all you really need to know is that to train each of these endurance types is that for muscular endurance training, do 3 to 5 sets of 12 to 100 repetitions, but 12 to 25 is the most practical for most people, and with a rest period of 30 to 180 seconds. High reps until failure with body weight or lightweight resistance, and also isometrics like planks and wall sits are also good. And for long duration endurance training, it's just one set of anything longer than 12 minutes, so long distance running, cycling, swimming, etc. And for anaerobic, 3 to 12 sets with a ratio of work to rest at 3 to 1. So for example, 30 seconds work, 10 seconds rest, or a ratio of 1 to 5, so 20 seconds of hard work and then 100 seconds of rest. And it's typically exercises that you would do with little oxygen or that you expend oxygen fast, so things like sprinting. And for aerobic, it would be 3 to 12 sets with 3 to 1 ratio, so again 30 seconds work, 10 seconds rest, or 1 to 1 ratio, 30 seconds work and 30 seconds rest. And this will be exercises that you do with oxygen, so you don't expend oxygen as fast, so things like weightlifting or light cardio movements. And for breathing, you have to first understand that breathing is just bringing oxygen into our systems to use for energy. So our ability to deliver oxygen to working muscles and brain is important for generating muscular effort and also to think. So to optimize your breathing while doing endurance training is that nasal breathing is always better than mouth breathing. And for long duration work, try to nasal breathe as much as you can. However, as you increase intensity, you may need to incorporate mouth breathing, but make sure you are never shallow breathing, breathing too much, over breathing, under breathing, or mouth breathing, because you always want to make sure you are taking nice deep breaths through your nose to ensure your entire body is getting the oxygen circulation it needs to produce energy. And the only time you should be mouth breathing is when you need to do a strong exhale during a specific movement like a punch or baseball swing. This is also the reason why you hear people make sounds when punching, so things like oos, oos, or like something like that. Shallow breathing is also the reason behind why you experience side stitches, and this is because you're expending all of this energy running, and because you're taking shallow breaths, you're not giving your body enough oxygen to replenish the energy it's using. And if you are ever experiencing a side stitch or cramp, as what some people call it, you can relieve it by doing a physiological sigh, which is a double inhale and then an elongated exhale. So it should look something like this. During this elongated exhale, you're offloading carbon dioxide, which should make the side stitch naturally disappear. Warming up your diaphragm and intercostals can help you breathe more deeply during endurance exercise. And you do this by trying to open up your diaphragm and intercostals by focusing on breathing deeply for a short period of time. And this will help train your diaphragm and intercostals by getting the maximum diaphragmatic expansion and chest lifting. Also, when you're running and doing endurance training, when you start feeling fatigue, start to inhale deeply and expand your intercostals and diaphragm to get more oxygen into your system. And that is actually pretty much it. All of the major points that will help you build endurance for your brain and body by Dr. Andrew Huberman. If you enjoyed, check out my other summaries. And if you really enjoyed, check out my newsletter, blog posts, and other social medias. I'm trying to document my entire life and everything I'm learning in a way that is interesting and actionable for you, so you can apply the information to better your own life. All of the links to my resources at Andrew Huberman's will be in the description. Also, if you notice, I have the blue light blockers because I'm recording this at night. And yeah, it sucks because I have a light right here, which is, messing up my melatonin, as what I've learned from Andrew Huberman. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video.